Hello, my name is Ray Crew, and I'll be guiding your asynchronous online exploration of ethics this semester. There are a couple of things that make this course unique and unlike any other course you'll ever take. For one thing, this is a course you can't help but use later in life. It doesn't matter what profession you choose, and I very much doubt you currently choose to become a professional ethicist or a philosopher. But whatever else you do, understanding and making decisions between right and wrong is something you do every day. You may already have a well thought out moral code, or it just may seem natural to you, or maybe you've never given it much thought. The other thing that's interesting about this course is that it's going to seem at times this semester that the deeper you dive into this subject, that the more theories you look at, the more concepts you consider, the more elusive your understanding of right and wrong becomes. It's almost like the more you know, the less you know. Trust me, that happens to everyone who studies this topic. You will come out the other end, I promise. And what I hope you come out the other end with is not just a familiarity with different philosophers and different codes and theories of evolution and all the other possible origins of our human notion of right versus wrong. Those are all good things. They're going to open your mind. And what I hope they contribute to is you developing your own personal ethical code based on what you believe, based on what you've learned, based on your life experience. An ethical code that's going to work for you that you can apply going throughout the rest of your personal and professional lives. That's going to differentiate you from a lot of the population. Okay, all that said, let's talk a bit about how to navigate through this course. Navigating through this course is pretty straightforward, but it does help to be familiar with what's under these tabs and what they're used for. Well, if you go under the Content tab, it's going to bring you to this screen. Now, you're already watching the video, so you don't need to worry about that. Under the Getting Started tab, you'll find the link for the textbook, which in our case is Doing Ethics. It's an ebook, and your access to it is here. Also, information about the Writing Center if you need any of their help going forward. If you've not used D2L in the past, you'll have an opportunity here to go in and learn a bit about the technology, the resources, and really just how to become more comfortable with the technology. Under this tab, you'll learn a bit more about me. And of course, this one here is very important. This is really going to be our roadmap. It's the syllabus, our schedule, keys to success, and of course, how you're graded. The syllabus is the standard one that you'll find in the catalog. And here is our schedule for this semester. Now, you'll notice that there are no dates attached to this schedule, just week numbers. I did that intentionally because one of the benefits of an asynchronous online course is that you can, to a certain extent anyway, work at your own pace. Now, that's both a benefit and potentially a problem. You should never get too far behind because if you do, it can become very difficult to catch up. It's also a problem if you get too far ahead because much of what you're going to learn in this course is going to come through discussions, through your interactions with your classmates, both online and hopefully in some class Zoom meetings that I'll talk about in a moment. Okay, very important. How do you get a grade? What things add up to what? The evaluation measures sort out this way. There are a lot of discussion posts. There are weekly quizzes. All of that taken together and a couple of other activities, all of that taken together will count for 25% of your grade. In the next few weeks, you're going to be asked to make an online oral presentation. It sounds scarier than it is. You're going to be fine. That will count for 5% of your grade. You'll be making journal entries throughout. That counts for 10%. The midterm exam, 15%. The final, 20%. And a capstone project, which we'll talk about in a bit, will count for 25%. Now, in addition to that, I've put in here something I call keys to success. And there really are three. One is engagement. Engagement means really involving yourself with the subject. With an online course in particular, it's possible to just go through and check off the boxes, do the assignments, do the minimum in discussion posts, and get through. Engagement, on the other hand, is different. Engagement means really taking the time to read what your classmates write and responding to them in a meaningful way, not just because you have to make 2 responses to get credit for the discussion, but because you've really taken time to think about what they've said, what it's made you think, or to even better, ask them questions. All right. That's how you get engagement and two-way conversations going. All right. Also, remember, everyone's coming in here to learn. And ethics is the kind of a subject that, yes, ironically, there are right and wrong answers because, after all, it's a course about right and wrong. However, there are many different approaches to that right and wrong. I like to look at it this way. Personally, I believe, yes, there are absolute truths. Truth is not a relative thing. Many would argue with me. That's my belief. But in our own fallible human way, we only see a piece of that truth. And the way we learn and expand our horizons is to understand what the other person sees and compare it to what we see. That's real engagement. Second key, insight. What do I mean by that? Insight means doing more than just learning concepts and knowledge and spitting it back appropriately, because you can do that in any course. In a course like this, insight comes from seeing connections between things that aren't right out there in front of you. All right, putting ideas together in new and unique and innovative ways. That's really what differentiates someone who just gets by in this course from someone who really shines. And you'll have multiple opportunities to demonstrate this insight in tests, in your journals, certainly in your class discussions. And finally, timeliness. It's really kind of repetitive of what I said earlier. It's not so much about staying on schedule as it is managing your time appropriately. Again, not to get too far behind and not to let yourself pull too far ahead. Okay, let's talk a bit about this concept of class Zoom meetings. You might have thought to yourself when you signed up for this course, well, wait, this is completely online. I don't have to interact with anybody. And in point of fact, you don't. These class Zoom meetings will be voluntary. They're not mandatory in any way. That said, I think they can be critically important to help you understand the concepts we're going to teach in this course. Ethics is one of those topics that is really best learned through discussion. And yes, online discussions are good as far as they go, but it will never take the place of a real-time exchange of ideas with me and with your classmates, especially when we get deep into the weeds here. Some of these concepts can seem a little murky, and you can read about them and you can watch the videos and all the material, and it might still seem a little murky. And really, the only way to sometimes clarify that is to bounce ideas off of me personally, one-on-one, or hopefully in these Zoom meetings, and off of each other. And that sometimes is where the light bulb comes on. So these meetings will be scheduled periodically throughout the course of the semester. I'm going to try to accommodate everyone's schedule as much as I possibly can. If you can't attend, I certainly understand. You've got a life. I will record them and post them so you can go back and watch later. But that's no substitute for actually being there if you possibly can. All right, moving on. Under the Learning Materials tab, again, fairly straightforward. I mean, everything you're going to need is there, from everything you need to know about citing sources and APA style, et cetera, and then all of our topic areas. All right, from the initial elements of ethics, what ethics is, how to evaluate arguments, moral theories, subjectivism, relativism, et cetera. And under each tab, if you click it, you'll find the learning objectives, and you'll find whatever material is there. In this case, it's a PowerPoint and a couple of different videos. There are different amounts of material in different units. It depends on the topic. Under the Assignments tab, you'll find readings, quizzes, activities, all of which, of course, correspond to the topics covered in the units. It can be a little tricky connecting the assignments back up to the units, but I think once you do this a couple times, you're going to begin to get the hang of it. Also down here, you will see the final capstone project, which is your personal ethical stance. And this kind of brings it full circle to what I promised you this course would leave you with. You'll have an opportunity to actually decide on the moral theory that works for you, to adopt the pieces of what you learn in this course that you find the most persuasive. It gives you an opportunity to put a stake in the ground and say, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it. And that wraps up this brief overview of the course. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and working with you this semester as you explore ethics.